Nobody in that prison had the slightest clue that the most dangerous man alive was right there, sitting quiet, eating slow, swallowing humiliation without saying a damn word. Still, calm, like all the violence around him was just background noise, until that silence started to weigh on the room, and that weight became a threat. His name was Joseph Mallory, 70 years old. On paper, just another inmate shipped from the capital. In reality, a presence no one should have underestimated. Ironstone Federal Penitentiary wasn't your regular lockup, built in the frozen desert of the Midwest, wrapped in concrete walls and electric fences. It was where the government sent men they wanted erased, where silence only ended when brutality spoke. Inside those walls, fear and discipline walked hand in hand. Names didn't matter. Your crime did. Your reputation did. And there was only one rule: the strongest survives. In the suffocating mess hall, where metal trays clanged and processed food smelled like defeat, a cruel hierarchy ruled everything. At the top sat Dominic Crane, the butcher, a tattooed mountain of a man, muscles and scars fighting for space across his skin. He owned that cafeteria like it was his damn throne. When he walked, the hallways bowed. When he stopped, fear did too. That morning, Joseph sat alone. Slow movements, quiet bites, eyes down, yet seeing everything. And that alone pissed Crane off. With a smirk that loved crushing the weak, Crane grabbed a water jug and poured it over the old man's head, slowly, like a twisted baptism, in front of everyone. Water dripped down Joseph's face. His hands stayed steady. He didn't stand, didn't complain, didn't even look up. That silence, it hurt more than any scream. "Hey, old man, I'm talking to you," Crane growled, leaning close. Nothing. Joseph kept eating like the giant beside him was just another gust of AC. A few inmates dared to laugh, nervous, because his silence didn't feel like weakness. It felt like control. Crane shoved his shoulder, hard enough to flatten a fragile man. Joseph didn't budge. Crane squinted, leaning in. "You're a nobody in here." Joseph looked up for the first time. No defiance, no fear, just a cold calculation, the look of someone who's seen monsters before and found them unimpressive. "You done?" he asked low. The mess hall froze solid. Crane chuckled, but it died halfway out as Joseph stood up, legs steady, eyes locked, posture of a man who's buried bigger animals. Crane threw a punch, tried to. Joseph wasn't there anymore. One move, a sidestep, a precise twist, a pinpoint strike to the knee, and the giant screamed as he collapsed, leg folding like rotten wood. Joseph grabbed him by the back of the neck, shoving his face an inch from the cold floor, and whispered, "Now you exist." He let go. The butcher hit the ground without glory, choking on his own humiliation. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Joseph dried his head with a napkin and kept eating. No cheers, just respect and fear, the kind that comes when everyone realizes. The real monster in the room was the one they chose to mess with. From that day on, a new silent law spread through Ironstone: don't poke the dragon. The smart ones noticed the details. Military posture, eyes measuring distance, silence like a weapon. Joseph wasn't there by accident. He was on a mission, but whose? Nobody knew. Crane was transferred to medical a few days later. His voice never echoed in the cafeteria again. And Joseph continued his routine, quiet, still, eating slow. But now, the most terrifying sound in Ironstone was his silence. Life in Ironstone ran like a machine, cold, tight, and suffocating. Every morning kicked off at 5 a.m. with a screaming alarm, followed by head count, a bland breakfast, and another day of hard labor. No windows, no sky, just a distant memory. Those gray walls squeezed the hours together until the men inside stopped looking like people and more like ghosts, just clinging to instinct. In Block D, where Joseph Mallory had been placed, tension never took a day off. Guards only stepped in when blood hit the floor. Fear did the rest of the policing. Every stare came with a threat hidden behind it. Every move was a claim to territory, and ever since the incident with Dominic Crane, something had shifted, a power vacuum had opened up, and nobody was dumb enough to try and fill it. Joseph, though, he seemed like he didn't belong to any of that. He had a fixed routine, up before the alarm, push-ups in the corner of his cell, eating slow, reading anything he could get his hands on. He never talked, never snapped back. Just existed like a shadow that refused to fade, and the more he tried to stay invisible, the harder he was to ignore. That drove the other inmates nuts. Especially one, Marcus "Slick" Delgado. One of the few guys with access to the library and respect from nearly every racial crew in the joint. Delgado could smell secrets from a mile away, and Joseph Mallory was a damn mystery tossed right into the heart of the chaos. "That old man's not some civilian," he muttered to a buddy one day. "He moves like someone who's been trained to kill." So Delgado watched. He noticed how Joseph folded his sheets, not neat like a clean freak, but strategic, like he was setting up a perimeter. How he placed his tray in the exact same spot every meal. How he never turned his back to the cell door, not once. One rainy afternoon, while helping clean out some dusty archive boxes, Delgado found Joseph's file, 3 pages, sealed. And the case number started with NX, something he'd never seen in any legal paperwork before. Even weirder, Joseph's transfer order came straight from Homeland Security. No judge, no prosecutor, just a single stamped label. Classification, internal threat, level 1. Delgado's throat went dry. Meanwhile, the rumor mill outside the library was working overtime. Old guards whispered about a ghost op gone sideways years ago, involving a retired agent from some deep black special operations outfit. A man trained to vanish, to neutralize, to leave nothing behind. Pieces were starting to line up, but nobody had a clue why he was here. And someone else had been paying attention, Chief Security Officer Weller. Different from the rest of the guards, Weller knew military posture when he saw it. He recognized eyes that didn't flinch under pressure. And that bothered him. He had a murky FBI past before landing in Ironstone, paranoid, methodical, distrustful to the bone. From day one, he put Mallory under a microscope. Extra cameras in Block D flagged visitors, monitored every interaction, yet nothing surfaced. Joseph was a black hole of information. One night, in pure frustration, Weller told one of his officers, "Either he's waiting for something, or someone is waiting for him to act." Back in his cell, Joseph held an old, worn-out book, certain lines underlined. A true warrior knows when not to fight. But his focus wasn't on the pages. He was listening, counting footfalls, tracking silence, measuring echoes. The whole prison was a chessboard, and he was the only one who knew all the plays, while everybody else was trying to figure out who the hell he was. Joseph was already hunting something else, a name floating quietly through inmate conversations. Clint Harrow. Plain-sounding name, scary reaction. Guys stiffened when they heard it. They glanced around, lowered their voices, changed the subject, and Joseph just took notes. Weeks rolled by like barbed wire dragging across asphalt, slow, rough, and painful. On the outside, Ironstone's routine stayed the same, but on the inside, something was building. Like everyone sensed a storm coming but didn't dare say its name. Ever since the incident in the cafeteria, Joseph Mallory had become untouchable, not because of muscle, but because of mystery, of silence. He didn't take the bait when provoked, didn't join any racial crews or prison alliances. And in a place like Ironstone, belonging to no one meant you could be a threat to everyone. Marcus Delgado, The sharp-eyed, self-taught librarian was the first to push a little closer, keeping his guard up. "You're always quiet. But your eyes, they're watching something, right?" Joseph didn't bother replying. He just looked at Delgado like he was running the math on whether speaking was worth it. It wasn't. He went back to his book. Delgado smirked, hooked by the puzzle. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the name Clint Harrow was spreading like smoke. Scribbled notes passed between inmates, whispers during visitation hours, and Joseph clocked everything: routes, timing, who talked to who. He looked like a man hunting a ghost, while also bracing to be hunted. Then one moonless night, the silence snapped, a scream, then another. Block B went into lockdown. 2 guys stabbed. Reason: one had spoken the name Harrow out loud. The other tried to shut him up permanently. Joseph was far from Block B, but he heard it and noted the exact time, down to the second. The next day, he pretended to be distracted in the yard as he brushed past a known cartel messenger, the go-between for most of the internal trafficking. A perfectly timed accident, a shove just hard enough. The guy stumbled and dropped a small laminated slip. Joseph scooped it up without hesitation, kept walking. Sat on the edge of the workout yard and read, "CH, transfer approved. 10 days, secure the channel in Block E." He burned the note on the spot, using a lighter hidden in his shoe. A camera caught the movement, but he'd already hung a sheet to block the angle. Precise, cold, unseen. Meanwhile, Agent Weller was drowning in his own surveillance. There was clearly something bigger happening, something above his clearance, even with access to every prison system, even with reports going straight to Homeland Security. He knew he was being kept blind. So Weller changed tactics. He went straight to Joseph. "You know who Clint Harrow is?" Joseph sat in the interrogation room, blinked once, nothing more, no words, no tells. "Are you waiting for him to get here, or trying to stop him from leaving?" Silence. Weller's jaw tightened. "I saw your file, Mallory. I know what you were. I just don't understand why you're here now, and that scares me more than what you've done." Joseph cracked the faintest smile, more like a warning than anything comforting, as if to say, "Good, stay scared." Back in Block D, the inmates noticed the shift. New guards, stricter searches, tighter rules, but none of it helped. The atmosphere only got heavier. Delgado finally dug up a major clue. Clint Harrow wasn't just a name, he was a myth in the prison system. A government snitch who burned dozens of double agents and gang lieutenants, then vanished. Some said he was dead. Others said Uncle Sam buried him under a new identity. Now the word was, he was coming to Ironstone. That was suicide, dropping a bleeding man into shark-infested water. Delgado brought what he learned to Joseph, hoping for a reaction, a plan, anything. Instead, he got one simple question: when? "Within a week, that's the rumor." Joseph stared at the floor. 3 slow breaths, then he stood up. "Then we've got 6 days. 6 days for what? To stop a nationally sanctioned execution that no one will ever see on TV. That night, Joseph didn't sleep. He took apart the metal frame of his bunk and began reshaping the pieces into a makeshift tool. Quiet, careful, like a man who had done this before. His eyes weren't just focused, they were remembering. This wasn't preparation, this was muscle memory. Ironstone Prison had become a ticking time bomb. While the guards kept their eyes on the main corridors, the narrow alleys between cells boiled with deals, threats, and silent exchanges. The impending arrival of Clint Harrow was tearing apart the fragile balance between factions, and Joseph Mallory watched it all like a strategist deep in enemy territory. Delgado kept digging behind the scenes, no longer out of curiosity, but survival. He learned Harrow wasn't just a snitch. He helped put away 2 leaders of the Blood Sons, a gang that ruled Ironstone with iron fists and sharpened blades. That alone explained why the air felt tighter every day. He also discovered something darker. Harrow's transfer had not been ordered by the prison administration. It came from a higher authority, the kind of order that smelled more like a settling of scores than a bureaucratic oversight. Someone powerful wanted him dead and wanted someone else to pull the trigger. Meanwhile, Joseph started orbiting around a particular inmate in Block E, Reese Claus Connolly, a former soldier, solitary confinement veteran. Known for long silences and sudden storms of violence, they didn't speak, they didn't need to. Their routines aligned, same yard time, same meal shifts, same quick looks that said plenty. Delgado noticed and understood before anyone else. They already knew each other. While the rest feared Harrow's arrival, Joseph and Reese seemed to be preparing for something far bigger. That's when the doubt kicked in. Maybe Harrow wasn't the plan. Maybe he was just the spark. At the same time, Agent Weller found himself in his own conspiracy. His communications with Washington were being blocked. Codes he'd used for years started returning errors. The prison system received an automatic update, which never happened in a place as controlled as Ironstone. Someone above him was scrubbing evidence or setting him up to take the fall. When Weller tried to contact his regional director, the request was denied. Every attempt to leave Ironstone was stopped by security protocols. He was just as trapped as the inmates, only in a different kind of cell. Inside the dark hallways, three factions quietly sharpened their claws. Blood Sons, Steel Brothers, Hunters of the Light. Each had its own snitches, its own plan, its own reason to slaughter Clint Harrow the second he arrived. Joseph, however, had a different mission. He and Reese began smuggling tiny parts between cells, hidden in food packages and hollowed-out books, a strip of wire, a mattress spring, pieces of polished plastic. Delgado caught a glimpse of one package and whispered, "You building a weapon?" Joseph answered without slowing his pace, "I'm building a chance for someone to live." Delgado didn't dare ask more. The countdown tightened. 2 gang leaders were thrown into solitary after a staged fight. A message was carved into a yard wall. Everyone must fall. Joseph read it, understood it. Ironstone was being turned into a theater, a blood-soaked spectacle, a symbolic execution. And he was the only one trying to stop the show from happening. But there was one problem. He wasn't sure he could do it without killing again. The day arrived like any other, but the air was charged, thick, electric. Even the rats seemed to hold their breath. Forecast said a storm was coming, and maybe that was true, but the real thunder wasn't coming from the sky. Clint Harrow showed up at 6:47 a.m., escorted by 2 federal agents with assault rifles and stone-cold expressions. A black van rolled through the armored gates of Ironstone. No speeches, no introduction, straight to Block E, the most isolated place in the whole prison. From the watchtower, Agent Weller watched every frame. Everything was working, and yet everything felt staged. "This isn't right," he muttered. Joseph woke earlier than usual, tightened his shoelaces, ran his fingers across the concrete wall, counting beats. In his pocket, 3 hidden items: a razor-thin strip of metal, a fake button rigged with a microneedle, and a shard of polished glass. He was ready, even if he didn't yet know for what. At 8 a.m., the guards opened the doors for breakfast. No one moved. It wasn't fear. It was coordinated discipline. The factions had struck a temporary truce. For the first time in years, enemies agreed on one thing: Clint Harrow must die. Delgado rushed over with a book in hand. "They've got the camera map. They hacked the sensors. They know the guard shifts. It's going down today, during yard time." Joseph nodded. "Where is he?" "Block E, cell 12. 2 guards are paid to open the door at 11:10. Joseph closed his eyes. 5 seconds of silent calculation. When he opened them, his voice was iron. Then at 11:05 we get him out of there. We? You're in this now, Marcus? Delgado swallowed hard. There was no backing out. At 10:50 a fake breakdown erupted in Block D. A prisoner lost control, and guards swarmed. During the chaos, Joseph slipped into a forgotten maintenance passage. On the other side, Reese was already in position, dressed as a janitor, flashing a cloned access badge Joseph had given him weeks before. He hit the isolation release. 11:05. Cell 12 opened. Clint Harrow looked up, eyes hollow but still sharp. "You," he whispered, "get up, now. I thought you came here to kill me. I'm here to make sure they don't." Before Clint could question anything, Joseph dragged him into the repurposed ventilation tunnels. The timing was flawless. Every turn matched the sweep of a camera or the blink of a motion detector. 11:12. Yard doors opened for sun time. Every faction was in place. A guard on the payroll gave a signal, but Harrow didn't walk out. Instead, Delgado stepped into the center holding a book. He opened it and read aloud. "The man everyone expects to fall is sometimes the only one who knows how to escape." Confusion detonated. The plan unraveled. The execution turned into a hall of mirrors. An alarm screeched. Emergency doors locked. Red lights spun across the prison. Joseph and Clint were gone. Agent Weller slammed his fist against the console. They didn't disappear. He leaned in, eyes sharp. They're going somewhere. Then it hit him. The escape route wasn't up. It was down. The abandoned underground maintenance sector, sealed off since the '98 fire. Not on any current maps, but Joseph had been there, over and over, disguised as an old man shuffling slowly, memorizing every inch. 11:30, a rusted hatch swung open. Joseph and Clint slipped into the dark. Something waited there, a tall figure, black gloves, merciless eyes. Reese Connolly. "It's time," Reese growled. "Either we finish this, or we die right here." The disappearance of Joseph Mallory and Clint Harrow set off alarms at every level of the prison. The chaos that followed didn't come as shouting or open revolt. It came as a coordinated silence, the kind of reaction that happens when everyone realizes they're stuck in something too big to grasp right away. From the command tower, Agent Weller took control. He locked down all exits, cancelled visits, and ordered a full prison lockdown. But no matter how fast his orders flew, they weren't working. There were holes in the systems, blind spots in the cameras, guards whose radios went dead. Ironstone, once an impenetrable fortress, now behaved like a leaky ship. "They didn't run," Weller kept muttering to the screens. "They're executing a plan, and we're behind." Down in the tunnels, Joseph, Clint, and Reese moved fast. Ventilation was minimal. The air was hot, stale, and thick with dust, and the copper stink of dead rodents. Joseph led with steady, confident steps, as if the corridors were tattooed on the inside of his skull. Reese watched their rear like a hawk, checking every bend. And Clint just followed. A man who knew too much, a betrayer of people who don't forgive. For now, though, he was just another pawn trying to outrun his past. "Why save me?" Clint rasped between breaths. "Did they send you?" "I sent myself," Joseph said without turning his head. "Because the country you betrayed is the same one now trying to take your head. That says more about them than it does about you." Outside, the factions realized they'd been played. The lack of blood in the yard fueled wild theories. Some swore Harrow was already dead. Others said Joseph was bait, a trap to destabilize Ironstone. Delgado knew better. Worse, he knew that his own life had just become a thread about to snap. Reading that laminated slip out loud had made him a symbol and a target. The Blood Sons started watching him, too closely. Then Reese made a risky call. At a fork in the tunnels, he grabbed Joseph's arm. "We need to cut through the incinerator if we want out." "That's off the map," Joseph said. "That's suicide." "Not if you have the key." Joseph narrowed his eyes. Reese produced a simple necklace with a small cylindrical key hanging from it. The physical key to a door locked for 27 years. "I took it in the '03 riot," Reese said. "Figured someday I'd need it." The original plan collapsed. Within minutes, the trio altered course. Behind them, Weller started to map the depth of the setup. Months of security lapses, deleted lines of code, camera blind spots Joseph had probed day after day with slow, deliberate movements, while everyone dismissed him as a slow old man. To the guards, Joseph was invisible. He'd chosen to be. And that choice was turning into one of Ironstone's deadliest threats. Back in the prison center, tensions erupted between the groups. Delgado got cornered in the laundry corridor by 3 men brandishing crude razor knives. Before the first blade could swing, 2 guys from the Steele brothers stepped in. "Back off," one of them said. "He's ours now." A shaky new alliance was born. The factions, confused and disorganized, opened space for other voices. Against all odds, Delgado became a bridge, an intermediary, a pivot. In a prison, balance is more valuable than brute strength. Isolated in the security room, Weller had one last option: activate Protocol Lucifer, seal every exit, pump tear gas, cut communications for 48 hours. A scorched earth move. He hesitated. Something inside told him if Joseph wanted to kill, he already would have. The incinerator route was narrower than Joseph remembered. The concrete was coated in old ash, the walls eaten by time, revealing layers of a darker, forgotten past. The heat wasn't just from ducts. It was the kind of heat that arrives when impossible choices close in. Joseph kept walking steady, despite his weariness. He was no longer the 25-year-old soldier, nor the special ops agent who vanished without a trace. But here, in this moment, he was the only barrier between Clint Harrow and the state's quiet, staged execution. Clint tried to keep pace, but coughed constantly. Years of living half-buried had taken their toll. Smoke, paranoia, rotten air. He was no longer merely a living target. He was a walking dossier. If he escaped, he could expose secrets sealed for decades. If he died, silence would shield the guilty. Joseph knew that. That was the bind. Reese kept the rear, ears tuned to every little sound. His presence steadied them and made the tension worse. He'd trusted Joseph with blind faith. Now, in this concrete maze, that trust would be tested. "You sure about this?" Reese asked, barely a whisper. "No," Joseph said. "I wasn't trained to be sure. I was trained to act when certainty doesn't exist." The line hung in the tunnels and settled in Reese's chest. Joseph wasn't there just for Harrow. He was there for something deeper. Redemption. The word weighed heavy, but it was real. Above ground, the prison boiled over. The failed execution left fractures in the criminal hierarchy. The temporary truce between enemies dissolved, and new leaders pushed to fill the void. Delgado, improbably, became crucial. His link to Joseph turned him from spectator to key actor. He used cleaning hours to run impromptu meetings, sending messages tucked inside marked library books. His perceived neutrality, once a liability, became gold. While everyone scrambled to predict Joseph's next move, Delgado focused on one objective: keep the prison from burning until he could understand Joseph's real aim. And then he found the document that flipped the board. Buried under old administrative boxes, Delgado uncovered a lost file stamped by the Department of Defense, a classified 1984 protocol titled Project Exodus. Joseph Mallory's name was on it. So was Harrow's. And the names of 17 other agents who'd taken part in clandestine domestic operations, missions that officially never existed. Delgado took the paper to Weller. "You wanted to know why he's here," Delgado said. "Simple. Joseph isn't fleeing. He's closing something started 40 years ago." Weller read it line by line. When he finished, he sat in stunned silence. The protocol spelled out that if any surviving agents posed a threat to government stability, they were to be relocated to extreme containment or eliminated quietly with internal help. Joseph wasn't just an old, dangerous man. He was a living archive of operations that couldn't survive daylight. Down in the tunnels, the trio reached a long-forgotten room, the decommissioned power plant sealed after the old blaze. Joseph fired up a small generator he'd cobbled together from scavenged parts. Weak lights blinked on. In the center of the room sat a metal case. Reese pried it from a floor cavity. It had lain there since 2005, a physical backup of Project Exodus, videos, audio recordings, and documents that could bring down senators, generals, even Supreme Court justices. "That's why they want you," Reese said, looking at Clint. "You ran with the digital copies. This is the route." Clint bowed his head. Regret washed him, not for betraying the men he'd worked with, but for believing the system would shield him. "I thought telling the truth would save something," he admitted. Joseph studied him. His gaze was hard, but not without complexity. "Truth doesn't save. It just exposes. Who survives? That's our choice." Reese opened the case. For a long beat, the three men stood silent, staring at the files like people staring down a live charge. There it was, a decision. Burn everything and melt into obscurity, or wield the proof and blow the rotten thing wide open, signing their own death warrants. It was the moment fractured men had to choose: remain soldiers or become free men. Word of the case file leak spread faster than Joseph expected. Within an hour, the prison's internal sensors began flashing with random interference. Unmarked drones buzzed overhead. Guard radios locked up or spat static. Ironstone, built to isolate, now felt like it was under surveillance from something far bigger than any correctional system. Outside the walls, military satellites quietly shifted orbit. Homeland Security entered contingency mode. The directive was simple. If Mallory and Harrow are located, priority is neutralization. Nothing leaves Ironstone. Joseph, Reese, and Harrow didn't have days anymore. They had hours. Inside the incinerator's hidden chamber, the heat was unbearable. Joseph wiped sweat from his face as he neatly arranged the physical files inside the metal case. He knew there was no chance of smuggling it out, but there was another way: transmission. That's when he revealed his final ace, a tiny, covert network card he'd hidden inside a hollow steel bar in the yard weeks ago. With it, he could tap into a forgotten low-orbit military satellite. The government had abandoned that system long ago. Joseph hadn't. "If we climb the old water reservoir ladder, we'll have line of sight to the sky. 30 minutes, maybe less." "And then?" Reese asked. "Then, they'll come with everything they've got." Up above, Delgado tried to keep the prison from devouring itself. The entire place felt like it was holding its breath. He gathered faction leaders in quick meetups, dropping hard truths. "If they shut the power down, we're nothing but meat in a cage. Nobody walks out alive if this becomes a kill zone." He told them Joseph wasn't fighting for survival. He was fighting to expose the truth that kept them all imprisoned, inside and out. Some listened, some didn't. Enough understood. In the watchtower, Weller watched the command feed. When he received the authorization for lethal force against unidentified underground targets, he hesitated and deleted the order. He finally understood. Joseph Mallory wasn't the threat. He was the proof of the real threat. So Weller made his move. He faked a power failure in the South Wing, buying Mallory precious minutes. It would brand him a collaborator. Too late to change sides now. In the tunnels, Joseph and Reese helped Harrow along. They knew if they were caught, execution would be instant. No trial, no transfer, just deletion, like corrupted data. They reached the rusted reservoir ladder. Joseph connected the device. A weak signal flickered. The countdown began. "How long do we have?" Reese asked. "Long enough to end everything, or die trying." Joseph hooked the case into the jury-rigged transmitter. Green lights blinked alive, encrypted documents, video, audio, everything tied to Project Exodus, the skeleton of a monster finally set free. Harrow stared into the screen, silent, his legacy or his execution. Joseph glanced upward through the grate and saw stars, for the first time in years. "Never thought I'd die looking at those again?" Reese grinned. "No one's dying today." Joseph chuckled softly. "If we do, at least it matters." The transmitter blinked 3 times. 87% time was running out. Ironstone systems began rebooting themselves. The AI linked to federal servers detected the transmission. Seconds later, full lockdown. The final enemy had arrived. Time. Alarms screamed. A metallic roar like the prison itself was in pain. Steel barriers slammed into place. A synthetic voice cut through the chaos. "Omega Protocol activated. Maximum security. Lethal force authorized." Up on the reservoir platform, the trio exchanged a single look. 94%. 95%. Every percent felt like an hour. "They're here," Joseph whispered as helicopters thundered above. 4 black-clad operatives breached the industrial wing. No badges, no names. Their job, kill, erase, and vanish. Reese braced on the ladder, a soldier again. He pulled 2 weaponized tools and nodded to Joseph. "If they climb, they don't make it." "You'll die here," Joseph said calmly. Reese smirked. "I already did once. This is just overtime." Inside, Harrow trembled, terrified not of death, but of being the reason others died. "I'm not worth this," he said. "I don't deserve—" "You still think this is about you?" Joseph cut him off. 97%. The first operative climbed. Reese crushed his throat with a single strike. The second fired. The gunshot cracked like lightning. Reese staggered, hit in the shoulder, but fought savagely, dropping the attacker. 2 more climbing. 98%, Joseph shouted. He looked at Harrow. "If I don't make it, finish the upload. If you can't, destroy it." Harrow nodded, eyes wet. Joseph pulled out his final weapon, a tiny EMP trigger, enough to wipe the tech in the whole area, including the upload. All or nothing. Reese took down the third, then collapsed, bleeding out. Joseph dragged him into cover. "Stay with me. 2 minutes." Reese gripped his arm, pale and fading. "You're walking out of here, promise me." Joseph locked eyes with him and lied beautifully. "I promise." 99%. The last operative reached the top. Harrow tried to stop him, shoved aside. The gun aimed at the transmitter. Joseph leaped, a desperate, dying animal, wrestling the operative to the floor. A final gunshot. Joseph staggered, blood dripping. 100%. Upload complete. Joseph laughed, a broken, triumphant sound, blood on his teeth. The operative raised his weapon to finish him. Reese, crawling, dying, hurled a steel bar with everything he had left. It struck the operative's skull. Body dropped. Silence. Harrow crawled to Joseph's side. "You did it." Joseph breathed shallowly. "The truth isn't mine anymore. It belongs to everyone." He pressed the EMP trigger into Harrow's hand. "If anyone tries to bury it again, you know what to do." The prison lights flickered, then died. Omega Protocol failed. In the tower, Weller watched screens fade one by one. A final alert flashed, transmission intercepted, data irreversible. He leaned back. For the first time in years, he felt peace. Joseph had won, but at what cost? At the top of the reservoir, Clint Harrow held Joseph Mallory in his arms. Reese lay unconscious beside them, breathing shallowly. The sky brightened, dawn bleeding through the metal bars. The truth had won, but Joseph Mallory never opened his eyes again. The transmission of the Project Exodus files hit multiple locations across the globe. Just as Joseph planned, the encrypted cloud scattered the data to independent news outlets, decentralized archives, and servers far beyond US jurisdiction. Within 48 hours, the truth exploded into daylight. Documents, photos, audio, video, decades of covert operations run by the darkest corners of the government, exposed. Innocent people imprisoned, agents who vanished, public opinion manipulated. Federal prisons used as dumping grounds for inconvenient individuals. Joseph Mallory's name surfaced only in modest headlines. Not as a hero, but as the key witness who helped collapse the system from the inside. He wasn't celebrated, he wasn't honored, but he was understood. And for him, that was enough. Clint Harrow was taken into international custody, not as a criminal, but as the centerpiece of a transnational investigation. With him came the final missing pieces. His image slowly shifted, from traitor to survivor, from informant to whistleblower. He spent the rest of his life trying to repair the damage he helped create. Reese Connolly survived, but he never returned to the general inmate population. With Weller's help, who resigned from his position days after the incident, Reese was moved to a military medical facility under a new identity. He was never seen again. He never wanted to be. Marcus Delgado, the inmate who started as a curious observer, quietly became a rare symbol of hope. He helped form an internal commission of prisoners fighting for basic rights, something that once seemed impossible. But after Joseph, anything felt possible. Ironstone Federal wasn't shut down, but it was audited, restructured, and exposed. The men inside finally understood. The system wasn't untouchable, and silence didn't have to be the only answer. Joseph Mallory was laid to rest in an unmarked grave, a simple stone. 3 words, nothing left to hide. For those who knew the truth, that was all they needed. Years later, in a small community library in Detroit, a teenager flipped through an old book with handwritten highlights. Inside, he found a folded note, signed only with the initials J.M. Don't fight to be remembered. Fight so no one else has to. The boy tucked the note into his pocket and stepped outside. The sky was clear. The stars were bright. The legacy of Joseph Mallory still breathed, not as a legend, but as a seed. If this story pulled you in from start to finish, don't forget to hit like, share this video with someone who'd enjoy it, and drop a comment below telling us what you would have done. Your support means the world to the channel, and if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this. If you're craving more tension, twists, and powerful moments, check out the other videos on the channel. There are many unforgettable stories waiting for you.